Train in CSGO has been out of the map pool for a little over a year now, and it's worth raising the question of what happens now? This is the first time that something like this has happened in the game. Normally, when a map is pulled from the active duty pool, it means that it's going to undergo some gameplay revisions and a graphical overhaul and be pushed back into the game around a year later. The only problem with this formula is that Train has already been through it. Train right now has nothing wrong with it graphically. In fact, it's a very pretty map in my opinion. The only map in the competitive queue right now that I think is really dated by its appearance is Office. Although, that one could use some work too. The point is, what ends up happening to Train will set a precedent for something that will be happening for the rest of the game. Train is a map that has a storied history. A map that dates back to Beta 5.0 of Counter-Strike, released December 23rd of 1999. Since this time, the map has received a few revisions. The first real visual revamp of Train came with Counter-Strike Source, where it was remade within the Source engine with all these fancy model things. In the jump to Global Offensive, Train was not really updated at all from its Source version, remaining nearly exactly the same between games. This is not a weird thing at all, with Inferno and Nuke also keeping their CS Source designs. Train was one of the original 5 maps in the major pool in CSGO, alongside Dust 2, Mirage, Inferno, and Nuke. It was also the first of the 5 to be pulled when, after EMS won Katowice 2014, Train was removed from the professional pool and Cache, Cobblestone, and Overpass were all added to it, creating the 7-map system that we know and love today.
Pick is Nuke here. Is to say, listen, forget everything.
Oh my! Oh, it's happened, the curveball!
They've gone and done it, right?
Later that year though, on the 10th of December 2014, Train was reintroduced to the game and the professional map pool with a fresh coat of paint and a tweaked layout. This is the first real time within CSGO's development history that a map has gotten a full rework, with these reworks becoming commonplace in the later eras of the game. In fact, every single one of those first 5 maps to be played professionally has received one of these makeovers. Except for one, but it'll come eventually, right guys? Anyways, this new reworked Train was added back to the professional pool, the first major to be played with the new map being ESL1 Cologne 2015. All was well with Train. It was definitely a very CT-sided map, but hey, it's always been that way. In 2016, they made a substantial change to Train, completely shifting around how the A-bomb site functions. This change was a very good one in my opinion. This new version of Train was much more fun to watch and play than any of the prior, and short of a few small changes, that is how Train as a map has remained to this day. Around a year ago, Valve pulled it from the professional pool in favor of Ancient, and the queue times of Train have slowly ticked further and further up. So, the question now stands, what will happen to Train now? Well, I plan on presenting to you the 2 options that I see possible for the future of Train. The one that I think would be best, and the one that I think will actually happen. First off, the thing that I see as the most optimal thing to happen to Train is some sort of change to how the professional map pool works. In my opinion, the entire system needs some kind of change. The map pool right now just seems to change on a whim depending on how Valve's feeling that day, with no prior warning. The map pool needs to be standardized, with a clear rotation setup and specific dates for when the pool will change. In my opinion, a map pool change directly after every major would be the best possible option. I also think that with this system, the pool of possible maps to be within the 7-map pool should be expanded to include Anubis and the new Tuscan whenever that comes out. Counting all of this, there will be 12 total maps within the pool, and with 7 active at one time, I think that a rotation after every major would be perfect. I love to see variation within the map pool, and I think that this would be great. Another option is to increase the map pool to 9 maps rather than 7, but I personally am against this. It's already hard enough for teams to have a solid game plan on even 6 of the 7 maps, and I think that if we increase that number to 9 total maps, the game will become way too much of a counter-pick war. My idea of a planned rotating map pool announced ahead of time would give teams a chance to learn how they want to play a map before it's forced upon them. Whenever a new map is added to CS, it takes months before we actually get to see high-level games on them, since most teams will just permaban it right out of the gate. With this new system, less teams will permaban the new map, and even if they do, it's only a few months until the next major where they'll have to learn another map anyways. This will add spice and variation to the game at a high level without destroying the things that we love about professional CS. The second and most likely option, or as I called it, the Valve option, is that this is the end of Train's story in CSGO. I don't think that Valve cares to do anything to Train. It will remain exactly how it is now until the end of the game, and weirdly, I'm alright with that. I love Train, it's one of the most fun maps to watch, and when I think about the playstyle of some professionals, namely Fallen and JW, all I can think of is their highlights on Train. But honestly, if I had a choice between getting Train back into the map pool or getting a completely new map, I would pick the new map 10 times out of 10. It's not like Valve is just gonna remove Train from the game. They would never do that to a fun, competitive map that's been around since the Golden Age. Train is a really good classic map, but CS has a problem. Out of the 10 CS maps that have been played professionally in CSGO, 7 of them were released before 2004. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I do recognize that giving new things a try would be beneficial, especially when we've been throwing the same 3 Mirage smokes for nearly 10 years now. Map diversity is the best way that we can change how competitive CSGO feels without actually altering the gameplay. Valve has created the closest thing to a perfect, refined competitive shooter experience out there. We don't need new mechanics or gimmicks to make our game interesting. With a map pool that is more diverse and rotates faster, Counter-Strike would avoid that feeling of stagnation that we get so often and always have something new to experiment with. As someone who's put a lot of work into learning how to use Hammer and how to create my own maps, albeit nowhere near the degree of professional mappers, it feels kinda weird that we've only ever had one community map added to the competitive pool through the history of the game. We in CS love to celebrate how awesome our community is, with content like skins and maps, yet Valve has chosen time and time again to include maps made in-house rather than maps made by community members. I think that a lot of community maps could have been played professionally if given time, and honestly, I think many would be a better experience for both the player and the viewer. I kinda got off topic near the end, but the point is that even if the story of Train has concluded, there will undoubtedly be many more amazing stories built on the successors and new maps added to the pool. Whether it be Anubis, Tuscan, or another new map altogether, I have no doubt that with how good of a base game CS is, there's not much wrong that could happen. CS has always been CS, and it will always remain CS, no matter the map, no matter the players, and no matter the engine. Thank you. If you like this video, you can leave a like, and if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks.